Well, I am so excited about my interview today. This is one I've been wanting to do for a long time, the second in my series about how we navigate change and transition in a way that is graceful, with equanimity, with a little bit of style, and I think also with some substance. So today I am visiting with my friend Ricki. We met recently. We haven't known each other a long time, and we met recently at Ben's Ranch, at Ralph's Ranch here in Oklahoma City, and immediately I think you and I felt like we needed to get a deeper friendship going.
Kindred spirits.
Kindred spirits. We have a lot in common. So I'm going to ask if you would, by starting out, if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and then spell your first and last name so that people can find you online. And of course, we will put all relevant links, social media contacts, websites, all of that information at the end. But take it away, Ricki.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ricki Scheef, spelled Ricki. Last name is German, so stick with me. Scheef. On social media, I'm Ricki Lee Scheef, Lee as the middle name. But I'm 28 years old. I'm a pastel artist, living in Oklahoma City, working on the farm, on Ben's farm, which is also where I live. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So cool, kind of an artist in residence.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I want to find out about how you ultimately ended up at the farm and how you feel about living on a small working farm. But tell us about your background and your training. Were you formally trained as an artist?
No, not at all. I've only been doing artwork for about a year and a half, professionally, more so about a year. So my background's in marketing. I went to a state school and ran track and field, studied marketing and entrepreneurship, and then I worked at a technology company, a global tech consultancy, for 4 years in their marketing department, where I gained a lot of multimedia experience. That was my main role there. I also had a photography business. I still do. That sort of like supplemented my work there. And then I decided really slowly, but then all at once, that everything needed to change. So I moved from Tulsa. Everything in my life changed. My relationship, my job, my friends, my career within 3 months' time. And the farm was a huge cornerstone of that. And then it's gone from there.
So talk about change. Talk about really dealing with a lot of different transitions in both your personal life and your professional life. But let's back up a little bit. Are you from Oklahoma? Where are you from?
Yes, I am. So I was born and raised in Edmond. And then I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and lived and worked there for 3 or 4 years, and then came back to the city. So I've only been in Oklahoma City for about 3 years now, but was born in Edmond and have lived in Oklahoma my whole life.
And did your penchant for art, did that start when you were young? Were you always fiddling with pastels or crayons? Or when did you start developing this love of creativity in the art world?
I can remember, I think maybe just like most young children, liking to color and sort of like tinker with your hands and craft and make stuff. I maybe went to like art camp once, like a standard art camp. I was never something that I was really like, this is what I want to do until my adult years. So I was more so involved in athletics whenever I was growing up, and I cared more about soccer and track and hanging out with my friends. But artwork was never something that I really was interested in being classically trained in. It wasn't something that I was interested in pursuing until very, very recently.
So you didn't do it like as a hobby or an avocation over all of those years.
I would craft sometimes. I would maybe I can remember having sort of like a stroke of inspiration and going to the art store to get printmaking materials and make prints over a weekend, but it was never a sustained effort. I didn't have any sort of practice, what I would consider like I do now, where I'm practicing every day, and it's like constantly circling my thoughts of, what can I do and ideas and all of this. But I think looking back, I would say maybe it's something that was always under the surface as an interest. And I think maybe it was something that I would have wanted to pursue, but not something that I ever thought was sustainable, realistic, an actual career until I was an adult and I decided, well.
Yeah, a moneymaker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's so interesting when we're trying to identify what our bliss is, what we would have to do regardless of what our profession was or our family challenges or whatever. I think a lot of times it's helpful if we look back to our childhood and what things did were we really interested in on some level. And I think that gives us a lot of clues into maybe what we might want to do going forward if we're about to retire or if we feel stressed and we want to find an outlet. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So how did you get from Edmond to Tulsa? Did you go there for school?
So I graduated from high school in Edmond. I went to Stillwater for 4 years, and I ran track and field at Oklahoma State. I was a 400-meter runner. And
she's very tall and lanky, by the way. She looks like somebody who would run, and very gracefully, I might add.
Thank you. So that was a fun time. And then directly after graduating, I actually got married. And then I became a marketing professional at this tech company in Tulsa. And so I spent 4 years married and working in Tulsa, and then moved to Oklahoma City whenever all of those things had changed.
Okay. So did you meet each other in school?
We were high school sweethearts.
Okay.
So we met at Edmond Memorial and had been dating ever since. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's a very large part. Whenever I was reading through the questions, I was like, all right, how am I going to navigate this? Because this is definitely something that is a change-oriented thing in my life that I think prompted me into a lot of action in a way that kind of what you're saying is like maybe wasn't always graceful, but in the end has become a really beautiful part of my story and the reason why I'm an artist today. So.
Oh, wow. So, and forgive me if I'm being too personal and don't answer if you don't like. So, oftentimes at least the cliche analysis is that when you meet your partner at a very, very young age, that then as you both begin to grow and you begin to mature and you begin to find yourselves, that sometimes you find out that one person has outgrown another, or that you just don't have the same priorities, the same value sets anymore, and it can cause tension. Do you think there was any validity to that argument of, well, we knew each other since we were very young and we weren't fully developed as adults? Does that make sense?
Definitely. I think that does have something to do with it. I think whenever I was married, I was 21. So that is very young. And I think now I'm 28 and man, I'm a different person in every sense of the word completely. I couldn't even imagine at that age who I would be today. And I don't think that it has to do with maybe one of us outgrowing the other, but I do think maybe the value systems is we just started to value different things. I don't think that mine was better or worse or his was better or worse. It was just clear that the directions that we were both moving in our careers and maybe just our value sets and systems were just different. And
did you ever feel like you had pressure to get married?
Oh my gosh, yes. We live in Oklahoma. We live in the South. This is the Bible Belt.
There is some truth to that. And do you feel like the pressure was coming from just society at large, or from your family, or from your peers, or was it self-imposed pressure?
Yeah, I think so. Whenever I was at Oklahoma State, I was in a sorority. And I don't know if you've heard the term ring by spring, but that is definitely something that is.
I had not heard that.
Yes.
I wasn't in a sorority, so I had not, ring by spring.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So that's something that it's a funny, saying, but it's valid and it's true. And people are like looking to, that's like a goal that some women have when they go to school is they want to find a partner and they want to like settle down and get married right away. And I was around a lot of that. And I don't think that it's bad. Several of my friends are married and they're in like loving, happy, gorgeous relationships. But I do think that there was a little bit of societal pressure, religious pressure, never from my mom, believe it or not. My mom is the best woman on earth. She had like her 20s were filled with going to archaeological digs across the country and world, and she lived in Chile and did all these things. So my mom was always the person that was like, are you sure? Like, can we talk about this? Can we think about this? But ultimately, whenever I was, 21 years old and was like, Mom, this is what I want, she was the most supportive and loving mother. So.
Because a good parent lets their children take risks and make mistakes. So let's put that in the context of risk taking. I remember once I went to see Diane Keaton, and the talk was supposed to be about positive risk taking and taking risks and how you do that in a way that is proactive and is to your own betterment, even though it is a risky kind of thing. And it sounds to me like your mom was somebody who was very adventurous and very, very much a risk taker. And maybe you just hadn't gotten to that place in your life yet, and it manifested itself later in Tulsa when you decided to take several risks.
Yes, several risks. Yeah, that would have been in 2022, I believe. And it was really coming up to the point where my partner and I at the time were going to move. He was a medical student, so he was about to go to residency. And so it was at this crossroads where we were moving, and we were actually looking at moving to the farm, to Ben's farm together. And really, I just knew, I don't know if you've ever had something in your life happen where you just know something. Like, I've never had it happen in my whole life except for whenever I heard about the farm, Ben's farm. And I knew with every fiber of my being, in my bones, that I was going to live at the farm. I knew. And I had never even visited.
Okay, so let me get some context. So you were still married, and you heard about the farm, and you were working at a tech company. How did you hear about the farm?
I heard about the farm because I saw Ben, ironically, at the Paseo Arts Festival, and we were visiting there. Ben was I think he was filling in for some friends as a waiter that day at Red Rooster, and he had waited on my table, and he told me about this farm. It wasn't even purchased yet. He told me about the farm, and he told me his plans for the farm, and at the time he was living in Gatewood, and like the farm was not existent.
Okay, let's take a little sidebar here to give an explanation of the farm. Ralph's Rowdy Ranch. It is here in Oklahoma City, in the city proper. It is a small farm, but it is a working farm. He has animals. He has peacocks. He holds farmers markets regularly. It's an event venue. He grows produce. And it's also a place where people can go to establish better mental health, things of that nature. And it belonged to his grandfather. And am I right on that?
No, I don't. It's called Ralph's. Ralph is Ben's grandfather. I think that's just like an honor.
Okay,
so he named it Ralph's, but it was not his grandfather's.
Oh, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I apologize. So good fact checking right there. So he purchased this, and then he named it in honor of his grandfather. And if you want to check out a video that we shot recently there at the ranch, you can do so, and we'll put a link to that at the end. It is a place of magic. If you were a kid, and it's quintessentially Oklahoman.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It's just quintessentially Oklahoman. I am sure at one time or another Charlotte's Web lived there. I'm pretty sure Charlotte and some of her progeny.
Definitely.
And some of her progeny lived there. That's the vibe it gives. Okay, so you heard about, so that was what my dad used to call a significant emotional event, that there was just something that popped in your head, and it opened up a world of
magic
possibility.
Yeah, definitely. I heard about it. Ben had not bought it yet. I just knew that I was going to live there, and it's never happened to me before ever in my life, and I don't know that it'll happen ever again, that I just know that something like that.
When you came up with this, was art a part of it? Did you think to myself, I want to make art? You just thought, I just want to live on the farm?
It was, at the time I was still working my job, so I thought I would, be in Oklahoma City. I could work remotely there. I had a photography business at the time as well. So in my mind, nothing much, well, there was a lot changing, but my career and my vocation was not in question there.
And did you always want to live on a farm?
No, absolutely not. I wanted to move to New York City.
So, wow. So that's a real paradigm shift for you. So you never know when something is going to happen in your life. And if you pay attention, it can really be transformative. And a conversation with a bartender turned out to be very, very transformative. So then there must have been a period of time where you were kind of waiting to see if this dream could become reality, because he hadn't bought the ranch yet.
Yeah, at the time that we were moving, it had been purchased.
Okay.
So there was about a year-long waiting time from whenever I heard about the farm to when I moved there. And in that time, Ben had purchased it and was working and living there at that time.
So what mental process did you go through in making the decision to get a divorce and to move to a farm? What questions did you ask yourself? What fears did you have?
Oh my gosh.
Who did you rely on for counsel?
I think the questions that I was asking for the first time I was 25, 26. For the first time, I remember asking myself, what do I value? What are my belief systems? How much of myself am I willing to give up for other people or for other standards or expectations of me? And so there was all of these questions that were buzzing through my head of, really, it was kind of like a coming to, like, into myself of, how do I square away my needs with the needs of other people in my life? How do I do that in a graceful, respectful, kind, considerate as much as I can be, while also like loving myself? It was a lot of swirling thoughts.
So you were feeling at that point in time like, and I'm just trying to project back what you said. So you felt like the life that you were living was not consonant with what your value set was and how you wanted to live your life. And you wanted to bring those things together so that your identity would feel more comfortable to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And I think maybe also that my identity had changed. So at the time when I was making those decisions, and nothing felt wrong until it didn't feel right. And so the decision to move forward with those things was very slow and then very sudden. So
interesting. So it's like somebody who works all of their life to become an overnight success when somebody discovers them finally. So it was something that had been bubbling and festering, and then it took just the right catalysts for you to realize that now it was time to make a change. So who did you go to for counsel? Who did you feel comfortable in talking to about this? Did you go to therapy? Did you talk to your parents, friends?
All of the above.
Okay.
I think therapy is a big part of that. That would have been a really hard thing to do had I not been tapped into my mental health, and just honestly having a professional talk through things and mirror things back to me, and honestly face me with some hard truths about myself even. I think therapy sometimes is, people think that you go there to, feel good or to see something that you want to hear or from someone else. But no, I think that it's more of like, really good therapist is a mirror that shows you, the good, bad, ugly of it all. So I was faced with the decisions that I was making, how it was affecting people, how I felt that I stood in that, squaring it away. Like, it can get nasty. Things can get mean, and it's something like a separation. And so you have to just make sure that you're trying to consider grace for yourself and for other people, and kindness for yourself and other people, and all of those things, and consider them well. So
yeah. And I think I alluded to this in the last conversation I had, and that's we as women in particular, I think, tend to just beat ourselves up.
Oh my gosh.
We beat ourselves up for not feeling content. What's wrong with me? I've got all of this, and yet I'm still not happy, and I'm still not content. And then we self-flagellate, and we just go over and over things. So I'm sure it's very helpful to have someone objectively help you navigate some of the fears and insecurities. I think self-knowledge is a superpower. And I think it's a superpower that you must continue to develop as you age, because it so informs the quality of your life. So was there one thing that you learned about yourself that maybe you knew, but it hadn't been front and center, that informed you that maybe it's time to take these risks?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think the overarching lesson that came from all of that is belief in myself, belief in my convictions, in my intuition, in my decisions beyond everything else. And then belief that I'll see it through.
Wow. That's pretty wonderful. That's very wonderful. And I think that's why they call, when you go into therapy, doing the work, is to ultimately get to that space where you feel comfortable enough and confident enough to say, I'm like this, and this is okay. And this is okay. So you moved to the ranch. When you got there, was it everything you expected it to be?
It was definitely gorgeous, beautiful. I think that there was a period of grief that I was working through, which, if there is a place to do that on earth, I think that it is the farm. So I was surrounded by people instantly, surrounded by beauty, surrounded by Ben growing things before my eyes. So I was seeing markers of change as I was processing a lot of grief and a lot of change in my own life. And was just around a lot of really beautiful people too that started to care about me. So I fostered these relationships. I met Leah, and just through a bunch of, change, I saw all of this kind of unfolding in front of me.
On a practical level, how does one just move to a farm? I mean, did he have an Airbnb? Did he have a bed and breakfast? Did he know before he bought the farm that you were going to be there, and it might be part of his revenue stream for him? I mean, how did that work?
Yeah, so the farm is structured, there's 3 of us that live there. So Ben has a large house with a porch around it, and it's gorgeous. And then there's a smaller house that's a little white cottage that I live in. Ben and I share a garage. And then there's another person, Corey, that lives in what we call the bunkhouse, which is just like a little studio that's connected to the barn. And so the 3 of us are friends and, cross paths whenever we're living in such close proximity like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of those houses are, I don't know, within 50 feet of each other. Yeah. So it's been really nice. So he had that all set up. There was nothing that was built. So he was looking for a tenant to fill the cottage. And he found me, and then he found Corey. And so
you went to live on the farm because nature is a healer. For me, it's gardening, but nature in any form, I think, can really be a great physician. How did you feel that just all seems so brave to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think that I had enough time to think that way. I think it just had happened. And so it wasn't really a decision that I think that I had enough time to think like, oh, this is scary. Am I going to jump? I don't know. 1, 2, 3. It was just like, I feel like I got kind of launched into it. So maybe, it was a little brave, but it also felt very out of control. Like everything was happening so fast that I didn't even have a time to like have a reflex about it. So.
Wow. So you get to the farm and you are working remotely and pursuing your photography business or whatever. And then this is what really fascinates me. At what point, and I don't want to, I guess, share the ending prematurely, but you start pursuing art as a passion, and now that is how you earn your living. It's everybody's dream to move to a farm and become an artist and make a living off of being an artist. And she sells pieces to celebrities. She's it's just incredible to me, and she's done this in a very, very compressed time frame. So I would say overall, it sounds like you got a really good return on your investment of risk taking. So talk about that pilgrimage a little bit, because that's just fascinating to me.
Right. Well, I'm glad that we have the backstory down of my relationship and all that, because I do think that it lays the foundation. It feeds into the ramping up of the artwork in a really real way. I had lived at the farm for about a year before I had even started drawing or working with my hands and creating anything. It was that year was a period of a lot of grief and a lot of soul searching and just like festering, just lots of really thick emotions were happening in my mind.
Mental composting.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. That's great. Yeah, exactly. And I remember somewhere in that, I was like, oh, it would be really cool to be able to create artwork. But it took me thinking that for about 6 months before I ever picked something up. I think I just didn't have the energy. My mind was so preoccupied with just this like conjugative load of thinking about this horrible thing has happened in my life. Like, how do I fix it? What are my steps forward? My friends, like, people have opinions about me. Like, I was just filled to the brim with thoughts, and I just didn't have the energy direct towards my actions. Even though I knew that I wanted to draw and I knew that I wanted to create something in some way, I had like a 6-month almost like incubation phase.
Wow.
Where I was like kind of nurturing this idea, but a little frustrated too, because I was like, why can't I just do this thing that I want to do? And I don't even have like a vision for it, but I don't know why I can't do this. Like I want to do it, but I just can't. And I'm not. And so,
wow.
I think around like the end of that 6 months, I was like, okay, I need to create something for myself, like a promise to myself or a challenge to myself. So I kicked off really my art career looking back, which I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I thought that this was just going to be a fun project for myself. But for 30 days, I wanted to create a picture with pastels that was like representative of my day. So like I said, I was going through all of these crazy emotions and these just like after this horrible time in my life, and I just needed to get something out. And so for 30 days, I like sat down and I made these drawings that are absolutely insane. When I look back at them, they're like, they're abstract.
So was it cathartic for you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I would sit and I would cry and I would think about things and I would like.
Sounds like a movie. It sounds like a movie. Let's make your life into a movie.
I would sit with all of my emotions really from the day. I wasn't trying to think about all that had happened. I just wanted to focus on, okay, today, what happened today? And I was trying to think through like, this stroke can mean this conversation with my friend, or like these abstract things in my life that were going on. And when I look back on that project, I don't really do abstracts anymore, but when I look back on that project, that was the kicking off point of me like deciding that I was going to do this. And it was really, whenever people say that they want to do something or anything, like since this has happened in my life and I've become an artist, a lot of people will come up to me and say, I really want to do artwork, or I want to be a potter, or I want to start gardening or something. Like, how do I do it? Where do I begin? And I was like, well, you have to make a promise to yourself, and then you have to put some parameters around that promise, and every time you show up for yourself in the promise, I think your confidence builds a little bit, and then slowly but surely you have something like your garden outside, right? So it's just like,
wow,
it happens slowly and then can become this thing. So
I love that. I love the fact that, and not only that, I think it's so important that we make a promise to ourselves, and we hold it near and dear, and we are as obligated to it as if we made a promise to another loved one. But would it be fair to say that you couldn't have come to that place unless you went through all of that grieving and all of that, the messiness of all of that, the processing of it? And I think that's when we beat ourselves up, is when we're in the processing and we don't realize that, no, that's what you have to do. You have to go through the mess before that mess can give you some form of clarity.
Definitely.
And then you have enough energy to just do something at a certain point. Because what are your alternatives? Okay, I'm just going to sit here and vegetate, or I'm going to do something. And that is truly an act of bravery, is just to get up and do something and make a promise to yourself. And I love that. And a promise with parameters.
Yes. I think that's the most important part of starting something, is you need to make it. So my parameters for that project were that it's going to be with pastel, it's going to be on the sheet of paper, and that was it. So I could have made anything. I could have made an abstract or still life. There was no rules, except for I had to have parameters. I think there's a difference between rules and parameters. I think rules like kind of oppress your mind and they create unnecessary blocks. Whereas parameters are like, no, this is a space I can play in and it can be whatever I want it to be. And I think parameters are really what can grow you into this place that maybe something is created from that wouldn't have existed if you were able to just free flow.
And in a way it contains that freedom, and it also gives you freedom to say, I only have to do this. This is all I have to do today, but I made my commitment to myself. I'm not worrying about perfection. I'm not worrying about results. I'm just doing this because I made a promise to myself. Did you share those with anyone? Were they more holy to you? Did you keep them to yourself, or did you share them with other people? Did you let people know that you were starting to work on art again? I mean, how public were you with this type of art therapy you were doing?
Yeah, I was actually pretty public with it from the beginning. Going back to what you said about how all of these things in your past lead you somewhere and, inform on your decisions and what happens in the future. I think that I was a multimedia coordinator, and video and editing was something that I've always loved. I had a photography business, so I was like, I love sharing things. I love photos, I love videos, I love editing, and so I included that into my process and into the parameters. Actually, I forgot to say that was one of my parameters, is I wanted to post a video of me making the paintings every day.
And by the way, excuse me for interrupting, but I think that's how you kind of became Insta famous. You've got over 100,000 followers on Instagram, and you would produce these reels, which were obviously very, very compelling, and people started to take notice. And with your background in media and whatever, they're extremely well done. They're not just kind of like I would do it. They're very professionally done, and I love that. So it was multidimensional. So you had parameters, but you also had not only breadth, but you had depth to it too.
So, and I think too, I was at a point in my time where at the time I was posting to my Instagram, I think it had 400 followers on it.
Wow.
So most of them were just my friends, like Leah was there. And so it didn't feel scary, really. This was just like, I'm doing this and here it is. And if you like it, then that's amazing. And if you don't, a lot of other people don't like my decisions. So that's fine too, I suppose.
So you just kept working, but there had to have been some kind of critical mass, some kind of turning point where all of a sudden things started to take off and you began to realize, oh, I am an artist now. This is what I do. So how did that transformation take place, and how did you begin to market, or even come up with the idea that you wanted to market what you were creating?
Definitely. I'm actually really excited to talk about this. This is like one of the main things that I was driving here thinking, okay, we need to talk about this.
Go for it.
Journaling is a huge part of my life. So in the morning, I sit down most mornings and I write down 3 pages, and again, the parameter is 3 pages full, and it's just a brain dump. That's it.
Is this inspired by Julia Cameron's
It is
Morning
The
Pages?
Artist's Way. Yes.
Yes.
Which I will say, I still have not finished that book, but I have taken the morning pages from it. And I'm wanting to finish the whole workshop at some point in time.
Okay. And we'll put a link to the book at the end, because anybody who is in any kind of creative world is pretty much familiar with The Artist's Way.
Definitely. So yeah, I started kind of around the time that I was doing the abstracts. I started practicing morning pages, and I would wake up, and a lot of them were ugly, angry. And she warns in the book, she warns you, like, you're going to be working through your emotions and your block, your frustrations, the people you're mad at. So, I mean, I was scathing reviews in my journals. And I think after about 3 to 6 months of working through all of that just by myself, with myself, somewhere it started to turn into, actually, I have dreams now. And actually, I have been doing this artwork stuff, and I've been selling it to people, and like for, a couple $100 and shipping them to my friends.
And how did you even find that market?
On Instagram. Just my friends being like, oh my gosh, like, is this for sale? Because I wasn't posting them for sale. This was a project that I wanted to do because I was needing an outlet for something. And so people started to purchase them, but it was never something that I was like, I can pay my bills with them, and this can be like a career for me, until I started to journal, and I realized, like, I uncovered that under all of the emotions and all of the frustrations of whatever I was going through in my life, actually, like, deep under that was this dream of becoming an artist. And so that is whenever I was like, okay, in my journal, you can kind of see this progression if I were to read back at it, like, this is what I want to do. And then really kind of from that point forward, my journal and my morning pages were about how I'm going to do it. And so the dreams, just like in the morning with myself, they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger slowly. But yeah.
That's wonderful. And you must have had a great studio.
At the farm, yes, I do.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And lots of subject matter.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny, too, because my work is very centered around landscapes, and it's very floral, which I think is appropriate considering that I live on the flower farm.
Yeah.
That just kind of bled into my subject matter a little bit. So, yeah.
What time of day do you normally paint?
Oh, that's a hard one to answer. I've been trying to structure myself a little bit more. It used to be at night. It used to be all night. So I would start around 11 and I would paint until like 3 a.m, which is really crazy. I know. So I'm trying.
Do you paint to the sound of, do you have music going? Is it quiet?
I listen to piano music. Yeah. One of my favorite composers, H. Hunt, has this album called Playing Piano for Dad. And I like listen to that over and over again.
It's we need to put a link to that too. And I'm a huge fan of piano music. So,
well, I'll send you all my favorite ones. A lot of them are randomly Icelandic composers. So I'll listen to this like very soft Icelandic piano music.
How lovely. How lovely.
Yeah. So I used to do it at night. And I'm trying to give a little bit more structure to my days. That was not like super sustainable. For me, I think my ADHD plays into that a lot. I would maybe procrastinate a little bit, and then at night I'd be like, okay, actually I have no distractions, I can do this now. And so I'm trying to change that. So I'm starting at 9 and now I'm working until about 6 or 7. So I have the daylight and I have a little bit more structure, and it's definitely healthier. That's for sure.
Do you work off of photographs? Do you photograph, or do you paint what's right in front of you? What is your muse?
Yeah, I think photographs. So I am a photographer, so that's a big part of my life. I have hundreds of photos, thousands of photos of just things that I think are pretty. I don't really work off of one picture. So like, for example, like this piece, I didn't have a direction for it. I just did it. So I don't,
It's very impressionistic.
Yes.
Looking.
Yeah. A lot of my work is very impressionistic, and oil pastels definitely lend themselves to that. Whenever I work with commissions, though, I will ask for photographs. So like, for example, I just completed a piece for this person that wanted all of these wildflower varieties from his home state and city in Philadelphia. And so he sent me all of like 10 different pictures of just these really close-up flowers. And so what I do is I print those out and I post them on my wall, and then I tape my piece to the wall. And I sort of just like try and almost like collage the flowers together and then create a composition that aligns with his memory and feeling of Philadelphia. So whenever he was talking about it, he just has this very romanticized kind of dreamy feel and like nostalgia. And so I wanted for the piece to feel kind of endless. And so that's just the composition. It had like, the flowers in the front, and then the field sort of like flows and doesn't have an end. And so
these people who commission something from you, they have found you on Instagram or your website, or just you get on one platform and then the tentacles just go out into a number of different places. So, and you've been doing this for about how long?
So it's been about 2 years since I started my abstract series. And I would say it's been about a year since I've been a full-time artist. Okay. So,
and people can purchase your works from your website, both originals and prints. And so how, like, I heard a rumor that you have done something for Zach Bryan. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So he contacted me through a friend and wanted a piece. He's from Bartlesville, Oklahoma. So I think kind of maybe has a love or admiration for Oklahoma artists. Like
for those who don't know, give a little bio of Zach Bryan.
Zach Bryan is a country music singer. He is also a poet and just an artist in general. But I believe his background is that he was in the Marines and was honorably discharged to pursue his music career, because I think he started posting his art online, and then from there that's how his career started. And so
I heard they almost had to kick him out because he was just getting so much attention and so much kind of the Elvis of country western Elvis or something that they said, okay, you need to move on.
Definitely.
Because he has blown up, just yet one more country western singer from Oklahoma that has just gone
definitely
astronomically successful.
Yes.
So where are you at this place in time? Have you come to terms with some of your life angst?
Oh my gosh, yes, definitely. I think that, I think anger and resentment are things, they're like poison, and they'll eat you alive and just freeze you in time. And so working through those things definitely takes time. And I did it. I did the time. And I think what's also interesting is, like, anytime that I hear someone, a friend or, a friend of a friend is going through something that is difficult or like really just building up emotions in themselves, I think sometimes people want to move on from it so quickly that they don't approach it head on. And then, if you don't take care of it, it is going to fester and like rot your life away.
Yeah.
And so I think like the easiest thing to do with, even if that's something like anxiety, like what's bothering you, like think about it and give it attention. All it wants is your time, and your attention's like a little baby. You just have to like pay attention to it and feed these things. And then from there they'll grow into maybe something that you didn't even think that could come from them. And oftentimes it's like a slingshot, I think. Like the further back you go, it's like, oh.
Wow, that's a great analogy. And who was it? William Faulkner that said to create really great art, you have to suffer.
A little bit, which I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, but I'm thankful. I'm grateful for the things that I've experienced and gone through. And yeah, I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. I don't think anyone deserves to feel that way, but I am so happy.
How valuable was it for you to really have a support system right there for you? Ben, who prior to that you didn't even know that well, and then you met Leah through Ben, but you're surrounded now by,
oh my gosh,
by friends and peacocks, and you have really feng shuied your whole life into something that just sounds idyllic.
I believe so. And I think that wasn't really curated. It wasn't these relationships or these things that I sought out. It was more of following like established values that I had set forth for myself. And then whenever I focused on them, I think what happened around it is a byproduct of you taking care of yourself. Right.
Wow. And then like people gravitate towards you.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds very Oprah, but I think it's very true.
It is.
You get back what you put out.
Definitely.
So what are you, we're never content.
No.
but how content do you feel right now? And do you still feel maybe some restlessness to do more? Are you still keeping your day job? Do you still have the tech job? Or no, you don't even have that. And periodically your photography. Mm-hmm. But wow, this is truly impressive that someone who, you are earning a living from your art, and that's absolutely incredible. So your degree of content right now is what? And what do you see in your future? Or are you trying to just enjoy the moment, not look to your future? Where are you?
I think it's a big mix.
Sorry, that was a funny question. Where are you?
Where are you?
Where am I?
Where are you in the universe?
Well, I'm here right now.
Yeah, and we're so thankful that you're here.
I am always looking forward to things, but I think that doesn't have to come with discontentment. I think that you can dream and have ideas and visions for the way you want your life to be. Honestly, I think the only way that those things happen are if you're grateful for what you have right now. But I'm big and very into meditating and like a mindfulness practice. And so like, I know that it's kind of like new age, but I manifest things constantly. And that doesn't come from a place of me feeling like I don't have enough. In fact, it comes from a place of me feeling like so thankful for what I do have that I'm able to think through things that I would be even more amazing or equally as amazing in the future. But I think, so
it comes through in your art. I mean, I think there's a kind of an ethereal, joyful quality about it. Will you be at the farm for the foreseeable future? Do you, are you wanting another romantic relationship, or are you kind of just taking time to yourself for a while?
Well, I actually do have a boyfriend.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
His name's Jack. He lives in San Francisco. So we have been dating kind of long distance for a while, and I think a move to San Francisco is in the future. I'm not sure exactly when or where that lies, but I don't want to stay at the farm forever. I think that it was like a place and time for me that I am squeezing every ounce of like beauty out of it that I can. But I do think that I want to like move forward in some capacity. I've always, like I said, I wanted to live in New York, and I've always wanted to live in like a larger city. And I've been visiting San Francisco since dating him. Oh my gosh, it is, I don't know if you've been, it's the most magical place. But
how did you meet someone?
How did I meet
Jack?
Yeah, so he actually used to work at the company that I worked for. And so we had a friendship. And as I sort of like was transitioning out of, my job and my relationship, and I was living at the farm, we kept in touch. And it was a friendship that really turned into like a romantic relationship. So
nice.
Yeah, it was unexpected for sure, but he's like one of the greatest things in my life. So
that's I love it. It just sounds like it's almost an accordion. It's just
unfolded
over time in just a lovely, lovely way. What advice would you give people who may want to learn how to be entrepreneurial themselves if they're an artist? What would you recommend? What resources would you recommend? What kind of advice can you give to budding artists?
Definitely. With even my photo business, that was sort of something that sprung out of this entrepreneurial mindset. And so it's kind of something that's always like under the surface. I love business actually. And I love like the way that it functions. I love growing things and building things and like a business mindset. And I think that some of the most phenomenal artists on planet Earth will never really be known or seen because they don't want to sell themselves and they don't want to sell their work. Actually, I was reading this book. Oh, I don't remember. Maybe it was an article of this author, and he was in an interview with someone that was interviewing him for his book release. And he was asking her, you know, tell me what you want to do. What are your dreams? And she's like, well, I'm holding down this journalist job, but what I really want to do is I want to be an author. So I think I'm going to go and get my MFA. And he's like, don't do that. Go to business school. You're already a writer. You're a phenomenal writer. And she's offended. She's like, no, I'm an artist. I need to like learn how to do my art. And he goes, ma'am, I'm not the best author. I'm a best-selling author. And so there's like there's a difference between being able to like stand by your work and market it and be an entrepreneur in that way. So I think that it takes just practice.
Well, it takes practice. And this is something I am so bad about not starting something or whatever, because I'm not going to immediately be good about it. I'm not immediately get that pat on the back. And I grew up in an environment that was pretty hypercritical. And so because of that, I think I'm probably, unlike you, not as much of a risk taker as I would like, even about silly, stupid things, because I, have too high of expectations. And I think the best advice people give me is, Linda, just do it. Just get over yourself. Just do it. Just do it. Just, as you say, make a promise to yourself that I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's that Atomic Habits, James Clear kind of thing. Just sit down and just do it. And I think it's so hard. It seems like it would be something that would be so easy, but sometimes it's so hard to fulfill a promise to yourself. And that's why I am just in such awe that you have been able to do it. So I wish you guys would have been here. We took a little break for a minute. And there's, as you said earlier, I mean, we could kind of tell that we had so many things in common. Obviously, a lot of the books that we read and things. And and I can't remember how we started talking about it.
I don't know.
But I asked her if she was familiar with Gretchen Rubin and her 4 tendencies. And the 4 tendencies are, and if you are not sure what that means, you can take a quiz, and we'll put a link below. It's also a New York Times best-selling book. And the 4 categories are you an upholder? Are you a questioner? Are you an obliger? Or are you a rebel? And we were talking about the questions. I was asking. And I said, well, it's because I'm a questioner. And you started laughing. You said, and I'm a rebel. And of course you're a rebel, because look at all of these things that you have done in defiance of social norms
Mm-hmm.
and taking big risks. And I just love that. And I
think my headphones might have cut out. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's probably fine. It might be I can hit the power button again and come back on.
Okay.
So you can hear
Oh, wait. They're there. Oh,
is it the connection?
It might be a connection.
wait. There it is. Okay. I hear myself again. It's fine.
I'll stay right here.
Okay. So do you remember about where they cut out?
Yeah, about, I think you were saying, well, of course you're a rebel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So of course you're a rebel. I mean, you did all of these, took all of these risks. You completely transformed your life in defiance of societal norms and societal expectations. And I love that about you. So you said you're familiar with that book too.
Actually, whenever I found out about it, my therapist told me about it. And at the time, I was like, I'm an obliger. For sure, I'm an obliger. And whenever I took the quiz and I found out I was a rebel, I was really taken back, because the definition of a rebel is someone that is not motivated. It's almost comical. Someone that's not motivated by their own desires, and they're not motivated by the desires of anyone else.
They don't meet internal or external expectations.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, then how do you have any expectations for yourself? How do you have motivation? And I learned maybe over the course of the past 2 years that it comes from a sense of identity. And so a sense of value, of like having a really strong value structure in my life and a sense of identity in my life. And then I can make the decisions of, actually, this doesn't align with me at all, I'm not doing that. Or this like is very aligned with who I am and what I want to do. And I'm very motivated by those things.
I think I alluded earlier to self-knowledge being a superpower, and I think it is a superpower. And I also think pattern recognition is a superpower too. And to the extent we know ourselves and we know our patterns, it can really, we can just explode into all sorts of different arenas with that. If you are interested in more self-knowledge, because I just think it's one of the good things I like about getting older is you have, even more of a period of time over which you can explore yourself. And I don't think that's navel gazing. I think it's a good thing, because I think it makes you a better person. The more you know about yourself, flaws and strengths, it really can make you a better member of your community, a better member of your family, a better friend. So I would encourage you to take that quiz, because it's really interesting. The other thing is don't feel as if I'm not pigeonholed into any one thing. I'm probably a questioner, obliger. And if you want the definitions of those things, you can read the book, or you can go to her website and read about them. But I think nothing is absolute.
Oh, no.
We don't completely fit into any one hole. All of us are square pegs trying to fit into round holes, and to the extent we do or we don't, I think varies with all of us. So you can both be a rebel and an obliger at the same time, which makes sense. You were an obliger at the beginning part of your young adult life, and you leaned more into your rebel tendencies as you got older. I just love that. So thank you so much for being here. I have to ask you a question. Two questions. First of all, I want to address your style, because you are just I'm sounding very like a mom here, but you're just cute as a bug. You're just cute as a bug.
Thank you.
Your whole shtick is just wonderful, and we might need to do an outfit of the day after this.
Yes.
But how do you treat yourself stylistically, and how would you describe your own personal style, and how do you have fun with it?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. I love style. I love outfits. I think that that's like an art in itself. I think that a friend recently asked me this question, how would you describe it? And I said, like Neapolitan ice cream, where there's it's very colorful and bold. I like blocked things. I like blocked colors. Recently I've loved florals, which is like coming into this feminine maybe thing that I suppressed at one point
in
my
floral
life.
Period.
Yes, exactly. Yep. I used to not like florals. I don't know. It's been this thing that's like come up recently. I love like an unexpected pop of color. We were talking about the theory of red, like a tinge of red can make something elevated in some capacity. I love vintage. So I'm always like culling through. This is my mom's dress and my mom's necklace. So I'm constantly culling through like my mom or my grandmother's closet and borrowing or stealing things from them. Yeah. I think that it's an amazing way to express yourself. I love whenever I'm out and about, even in Oklahoma City. It's not maybe the most style forward place on earth, but when I see someone like really owning their style, even if it's not mine, I'm like, nothing makes me happier than someone really going for it and like expressing themselves. As cheesy as that might sound, I think that it's like such a great way to express how you feel and who you are, and it's just fun too. Like, why would you not want to wear colorful shoes?
And I don't think it's a superficial thing. I think it's just an expression of composition and an expression of your personality and how you want to communicate yourself to the world. And I think it's just fun.
Definitely. Yeah. I also think it's like a medium for connection. I mean, how many friendships or relationships have you started with someone saying, I love your bag or your shoes or whatever. Yes. We love the same brand. Right. And I think that those types of things can actually really like build and bind people together.
Yeah. Even if it's not your style, you can so appreciate that someone has made an effort and they have the expression that's probably a little bit overused right now, a point of view. I have a point of view about how I present myself to the world and how I feel about that. And consequently, then you get back what you put out. And anyhow, I just love your style. It's perfect for a farm girl artist.
Thank you.
And I cannot thank you enough for spending time with us today. Finally, one last question. At your young age of 28 years, what do you know for sure?
Oh my gosh. This is the hardest question you've asked.
Yeah, and I didn't give it to you in advance
No,
either.
you didn't. Oh my gosh. I think I know myself. I think I know myself for sure. There's everyone else I'm maybe not sure about. There's all the stuff happening in the world constantly. But I know right now what I like and what I feel drawn to, what gives me peace and joy. And I know what I don't like. And yeah, I think that I'm learning myself, but I trust myself and I know myself.
Well, it sounds to me then you have come to a very successful end to your journey. The end is every bit as good as the pilgrimage. So thank you so much.
Thank you
so much. And I aspire to be like you and be okay and say what I know for sure is myself, because I'm still working on it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.